Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We're talking grazing management today and how to get the most out of your pasture regardless of how much rain we've gotten in Oklahoma. We're joined by Alex Roccatelli, our forage system specialist here at Oklahoma State, about the Oklahoma grazing stick and how all of that works. And Alex, let's kind of start with the basics and why it's important to take measurements in your pasture each and every year.
Well, as we know, every year the weather changes, right? We have more or less rain. So that's why I recommend that always we measure every year our pasture, because the forage amount that's going to be produced will change year to year. So if you keep your same herd every year, regardless checking the weather and how much forage you produce, you can undergraze and overgraze your pasture. So that's why I recommend that you measure every year.
Talk about the science of what happens in the pasture if you overgraze and then also what happens if you undergraze. It can really change a lot of things.
Exactly. Well, we don't want both of them, because when you overgraze, and that's the worst situation that we can have, year after year you can have your pasture completely depleted and you need to come with your new pasture again by reseeding or sprigging forage back. Now when you undergraze, what happens is you are losing profit because you could put in more cattle there and make more money. Because when we undergraze, actually we are creating a lots of biomass at the top of the field that will not allow new growth. So in this case we need to mow or burn the field in order to decrease that biomass. So in both situations you can see that we have a loss. So that's why we need to sync our herd with the amount of forage that we are being producing.
So to help producers figure all this out, you and the team have some tools, including the Oklahoma Grazing Stick and the complementary app. So tell us all about those.
All right, so that's the Oklahoma Grazing Stick. As you can see here, it's pretty simple. If you look, it's a yardstick with some tables and formulas that we have. That is an indirect method to measure forage. The most accurate method would be come here and clip samples, dry samples, but this will take time, is labor intense. So we come with the grazing stick. That's not something new. The grazing stick is there for a long time, exactly to make our life easier. So with the grazing stick, what we need to do is to measure our plant height and canopy cover. And with that, we go through formulas and tables, as I mentioned, and we come with the amount of forage that we have in the field, and also how many animals we can place in the field based on this estimation.
And you and the team here at OSU have developed an app to work with the grazing stick?
Right, that's true. That's the Graze OK app. The idea of the app, it's pretty simple. Instead of we stay under the sun doing all this calculation and looking through those little tables, what we do is we do the measurement, we input those measurements in the phone, in the app, and after we just select and describe our pasture in the app, and that will bring to us all the calculation. So it's just to make our life easier. That's what the app is.
Give us an example of some of the basic measurements you would take and then put into the phone.
Right. First, Linda, I would like to say, before even taking the measurements, it's very important that we account all the variability of the field. For instance, I would call this a Bermuda grass pasture, but you can see that we have some Johnson grass there and even other forage coming. So once we have a variability in the field, just one measurement or pair of measurement will not be enough. What we need to do actually is take several measurements. I would say take from 15 to 30 measurements. And when I take measurements, in each spot you are going to take two types of measurement. The first one is plant height. So to take plant height, pretty much you find a spot that represents your field, and so you are going to measure the average height of leaves. As you can see, I'm pressing my hand down, and when I feel a little resistance that the leaves make against my hand, this is where I'm going to do the reading. Like here I would say 5 inches. Never take the highest leaf, or also if you have a place that's trampled, don't take measurements there. So that is the most important first measurement. The second one would be grazing cover. It's a little more tricky how to do that. We are trying to improve and make that easier, but that's how it is now. So you just stick the grazing stick under the canopy, And what you are going to do is just stand in front of the grazing stick. And I would say that you're going to look from mark inch 1 to mark inch 33 and see which one of them are covered less than 25%. If they're covered in less than 25% within the inch, you're going to count. So here, for instance, I would say that we have 4. So what we're going to do is you're going to subtract 33 minus 4. In this case, we are going to have 29. And if you multiply that by 33, we are going to have our canopy cover in percentage. That's pretty much.
And last but not least, you and the team are organizing a field day in a couple of weeks to look at summer forages, have people out and talk about some of the latest research and extension work. Tell us about that.
Exactly right. I'm very excited about that because it's my first field day actually here in Oklahoma. This is going to be in Chickasha, in the South Central Experimental Station. We are doing that in collaboration with the educators of the Southwest, where we are going to be showing teff management. We have demonstration plots and also research plots on Bermuda grasses, different types of Bermuda grass, on sorghum Sudans, on pearl millets. We are going to talk about also some sugarcane aphids problem when we are producing hay with those forages.
Terrific, Alex. Thanks a lot. And for more information on the fact sheet that Alex mentioned, as well as that upcoming field day and some how-to videos on the Oklahoma grazing stick, go to sunup.okstate.edu.
July Weather joined in the July 4th celebration with its own fireworks, lightning, thunder, rain, and some flooding. There has been so many storms and so much rain, many have been left wondering, is this July or May? Folks in the green areas had more than an inch, with many Mesonet sites reporting more than 2 inches. Yellow shaded areas had more than 4 inches, and red shaded areas more than 8 inches. Fitztown collected 11 42/100 inches of rain from July 1st to July 5th. More than 8 inches of that rain fell over a 6-hour period on Sunday between 4:30 and 10:30 p.m. Over the first 5 days of July, folks in the Panhandle missed out on the celebration and rain. The blue shaded areas in the west, south, and north collected less than an inch of rain through July 5th. The heavy rain made early July feel like May. June's weather mix prolonged some of that May feeling too. The biggest trend in June was the mix across the state in monthly average temperatures, winds, humidities, rainfall, and evapotranspiration. Parts of western and central Oklahoma came in close to the Mesonet 15-year average for air temperature. Moving to the east, the average air temperature for June was 1 to 2 degrees below average. Winds were below average in the pink shaded areas, close to average in the white areas, and above average in the blue shaded areas. Humidities in the green shaded areas were as high as 8% above average. In central and north central areas, humidities were average to slightly below average. The above average humidities did not translate into higher rainfall at all nearby Mesonet sites. Rainfall for the month of June came in on the dry side for the majority of Mesonet sites. In the dark brown areas, June's rainfall amounts were 2 to as much as 5 inches below average. In the dark green area, rainfall amounts were 2 to 4 inches above average. At sites in the light green areas, June rainfall amounts were typically an inch or more above average. The actual rainfall amounts for June ranged from a low of 0.62 of an inch at Kingfisher and Oklahoma City East to 9 0.65 at Weber's Falls. Like beacons in areas of lower rainfall, Mays Ranch, Butler, El Reno, and Chandler stuck out with rain totals for June close to 5 inches. All of that added up to less water demand on plants for mesonet sites in the green shaded areas. Grandfield's water demand was 3 3/10 inches below normal for June. Only 4 mesonet sites, Blackwell, Foraker, Kingfisher, and Bixby, had water demands above average in June. Checking on soil moisture, areas shaded brown are on the dry side for plant available water, from the surface down to 16 inches. Elk City only had 8% of plant available water by July 4th, and Kingfisher was in a dry hole at only 10%. Sites in the dark green areas have full soil moisture profiles in that top 16 inches. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
Last week we looked at the abundance of ticks moving into Oklahoma, and Justin, we think of ticks on humans, but there's a lot of ticks that are on livestock too.
Yes, that's correct. When we think about ticks on livestock, especially cattle, there's 3 main ticks we're concerned with. First is the Gulf Coast tick that gets on the ears of a lot of animals, and then you've got the Lone Star tick. And also the American dog tick. Out of those 3, right now we have a lot of Lone Star and American dog ticks that can be on animals. When you think about those, you don't necessarily see them. So we're sitting by the chute system. If we're going to think about how we're going to look for these ticks, usually you have to bring them up into a system like this to figure out how you're going to even find these. But for cattle in particular, we're certainly concerned with the American dog tick because it's involved with anaplasmosis. And when we think about anaplasmosis, it's a devastating disease that can get into a lot of Oklahoma beef herds. Why American dog tick is involved, it's considered a dermacenter tick. And so when you look at that tick, its life cycle, it's a multi-host tick, so it gets on multiple animals. And then eventually, as it's going through its life cycle, it's going to come into contact with a beef animal. And so as it comes into contact with a beef animal, it's not necessarily, do we have a lot, do we have a little, it's just, are they infected or not? Right. And so in the other issue with the American dog tick, it's what we consider a biological vector. So that means the tick is maintaining that anaplasma bacteria that causes anaplasmosis. And so the tick is very essential of maintaining that pathogen.
So when a producer is working cattle, they should not only just look at the ears, but also look at other parts of the cow.
Yes, that's correct. Specifically, if they're going to look for the Lone Star tick or the American dog tick, they need to look around the jawline, the brisket, and specifically around the udder region if it's a cow. If it's a stalker, just kind of get in between the legs. Usually what we can do is we'll feel a tick before we see a tick. And so get down in there, kind of scrape with your fingers, and as you feel bump, pull it out, and then that usually tells you maybe you do have a tick issue. But it takes time, so we understand why a lot of producers aren't bringing their animals just to check for ticks. But if they have them up, the areas they certainly need to look for is jawline, down through the brisket, and kind of underneath their legs, and sometimes around their neck, and as well as under the tail head. If you have tick problems, you know, some of our insecticides that we use for either pour-ons or sprays, we'll take care of a tick problem. Even some of our what we call endecticides, so like your products that control internal parasites, will also take care of ticks. For in a short-term basis for about a 3-week period. So if you know you have animals that have tick problems, bring them up, treat them with some kind of either pour-on or some kind of endecticide, whether it's injectable or pour-on, and that will control your ticks fairly well.
I understand it may not be feasible for a large herd, but if you notice that you have, say, 2 or 3 animals that are starting to show ticks, is it a good idea to just go ahead and blanket treat the herd?
Yeah, ideally, because even though you see the ticks on 1 or 2 animals, the ticks are a pasture problem. So what you want to do is probably treat your whole herd, because if you just treat those certain individuals, ticks again are going to get on those untreated animals because they're picking them up out in the pastures that they're at. This time of year is challenging. We know it's hot. A lot of people don't want to bring their animals up. But if you see a lot of ticks on your animal, it might be worth your while or even your labor cost to bring them up and get some kind of treatment on them.
Talk about some of the resources that you have online to help with that.
Yeah, so when it comes to ticks or other external parasites of cattle especially, we have a website called livestockbugs.okstate.edu, and we have a section that it's broken down by ticks, horn flies, stable flies, and we have information on there. The tick section, we have pictures of the ticks. We have even videos of how to properly treat for ear ticks on there, and then a producer can go on there and find stuff. We also have a database on there, and it's a link it's called Vet Pest X, that we did it in conjunction through what we call a multi-state group, the multi-state S1060. And essentially what we did with this is developed a database. So if a producer has a tick problem on cattle, he can go to that database and look through there and find every available product that he should apply that's labeled for ticks.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin. And for more information, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Spring calving operations that are growing some replacement heifers have probably had them in the breeding season for about 2 months at this particular time. Well, that signals to me that it's time for us to visit with our local veterinarian and schedule a time to have those replacement heifers that have been going through that breeding season this spring. Let's have them pregnancy checked as soon as our veterinarian is comfortable with coming out and doing that particular process. The reason I think it's so important that we go ahead and have a pregnancy diagnosis done on these replacement heifers is several-fold. Number one, in any given operation, we'll always have a few replacement heifers that there's something just a little bit wrong with them, and chances are they didn't get bred this go-around. Let's identify them and let's get them out of our herd as soon as possible. We'd like to get them culled while they're still young enough to have a chance to be purchased and go on to a feedlot and be fed out to be choice beef. If we do that now, then we can receive a price per pound that is much better than if we wait throughout the winter and find out next spring, when all the rest of the cows calve, that one or two that had something wrong with them just didn't have a calf, and we have to go ahead and cull them as 2-year-olds, and now they're going to suffer a big discount. So we've not only lost that particular price value in the animal, we've also put summer grass and winter feed into them all through the next several months. And so it's pretty important that we identify those replacement heifers that didn't get bred this first breeding season, get them culled out of our herd, save the money, and we'll be just a little bit better off. Also, certainly I realize that reproduction is not a highly heritable trait, but those heifers that were hard to get bred this first go around, chances are they will be difficult to get bred in the future, and their offspring, if they have some, would also perhaps carry some of those traits. So let's get that particular low fertility genetics out of our herd. We hope that you'll take time to visit with your local veterinarian, have your replacement heifers pregnancy diagnosed as soon as possible, cull those that are open, and I think it'll help your herd in the long run. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Well, it was a great week. We got a little bit of rain, we got to watch some fireworks, and we got a rally in wheat prices. Kim, is it going to keep going?
Well, that's the big question that I'm getting. Are prices going to continue on? My gut tells me that prices will probably go higher as we go out into the marketing year, but I think it's going to take a while. That $5 cash price limit is a hard limit to break. You know, we hit that in some spots in Oklahoma, and I think once we got up to that $4.80 to $4.90 to $5, we had quite a bit of wheat sold on the market. You look at the volatility of what's going on with these prices. You know, you're getting 25 to 35 cent price range within a day, and so even in a day's time, you can lose or make a lot of money. Just did you sell when the market's really down or when it was up? But right now, I think the market has went up. It's hit a very strong resistance level. I think it's going to churn a while. When it went up, had that 30-cent move. We gapped out that day. It's going to go down, maybe fill that gap. That's about 40 cents down. So I think we're turning around. If we can break that $5 cash, if we can break that, about $5.80 on the futures, I think we got some room to run. But I think it's going to take a little while to break through that. If we break through early, it'll keep going up. On the downside, weather turns on us in the foreign market. And I think that's what they're watching now. The weather turns on us, get good weather, get increased production expectations. We could see the high for that. We may have seen the high for the year.
Take us back a couple months ago. We were $2 lower in wheat prices, and there were some doubts in the market. Is there still caution built into the market right now?
Oh, I think there's caution, and at any time you get a move like this, and you can see the uncertainty in the market with that 25 to 30 cent price move even within a day. The markets, it's the weather. Policy comes, policy goes, but weather determines price, and you can't predict weather. I get a rain on 20% probability, and we won't get one on 90 to 100%. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's a lot of money in the market. We've got the protein problem in the market. We've got coming into the year a shortage of good bread milling wheat. We've got bread milling wheat production down. So, we have a lot of wheat, but we don't have a lot of milling quality wheat. And the market doesn't know how the mills and the bakers are going to handle that. And when the mills and the bakers figure out how they're going to handle this crop, then I think the market will settle down. And so it's a wait and see project right now.
Especially with only 40% of the world wheat crop cut right now, there's still a lot of things that could happen.
Yeah, remember our trend is normally set in late August and September, and we're in early July right now. So we got another 6 weeks before we get a relatively good handle on what's going on in the world market. And then you still got Argentina and Australia out, and those are two big hard wheat exporting countries. So it's going to take us a while before, I don't know that the price will ever settle down.
What should producers be thinking about? Because they're a little happy right now wanting to sell the wheat. Is this really a good strategy to have?
Well, I think the producers need a mechanical strategy. I think they need to set some price targets and some numbers of bushels they're going to sell. If the price hits $5, don't set it on even numbers. If the price hits $4.95, I'm going to sell so many bushels, or I'm going to sell so many bushels by, say, October 1. Whichever one happens first, sell it. Just make a mechanical strategy, walk it in the market. You may be selling at lower prices because you get triggered by date, but create a mechanical strategy, get the emotion out of the market. If your decision's keeping you awake at night, say, I'm staying awake because I just don't know if I need to sell or not, sell some. If it's keeping you think it's going to keep you awake because you sold some, don't sell it. Let your sleep, your psychology determine whether you sell, not trying to outguess the market.
Okay, thank you much, Kim Anderson, Grain Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University. And just a reminder, the 2017 Oklahoma Crops Conference is getting underway this week with stops in Ardmore, El Reno, Alva, and Afton. And for more information on those, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Trichomoniasis is a disease that occurs in cattle. It is caused by the organism Trichomoniasis fetus. It is a protozoan that infects the reproductive organs of bulls and cows. It results in infertility in the cows. We've had regulations in place for several years for bulls that enter the state of Oklahoma and for the change of ownership of bulls that within the state of Oklahoma. But in September of this past year, there are some new regulations that have been put in place by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry. Female cattle that are exposed to a known positive trick bull can only change ownership if they are officially identified and they fall into one of 5 categories. If they have been pregnancy diagnosed to be 4 months or greater by an accredited veterinarian, they can change ownership. They can be sold for slaughter, or they can be sold to a feedlot and fed for slaughter. They can also change ownership if they have a newborn calf that is less than 30 days of age and they have not been exposed to a positive trick bull during that 30 days. And lastly, if those cows have not been exposed to a bull for over 6 months, those animals can also change ownership. If you'd like some more information about trichomoniasis, if you'll go to sunup.okstate.edu, there'll be a fact sheet that you can look at there at the website.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime on our website, sunup.okstate.edu, and also follow us on YouTube and social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone. And remember, Oklahoma agriculture starts at sunup.